Well, Modus, bro, thank you for coming on the show. It's an
Good.
immense
Thank you
honor
so
for
much,
us,
man.
and
All good.
I'm looking forward to this. So, yeah, you talk about how you grew up in the hood, and at first, when you first saw Graph, you would view it as everything that was wrong with the neighborhood, which would make sense. Like someone who doesn't know, and when they're young, and you're seeing these things for the first time with a fresh mind, you might be like, "Yo, this legit looks like a bunch of sticky gum, but just put on a thing." And like, I don't know what this is, and like my mom wants me away from it, my family wants me away from it. But obviously, things have changed. You're known for writing Graph, and just how did really everything's about perspective. How did your perspective in terms of Graph and seeing it as not something that's wrong with the neighborhood, instead something that you want to do, end up changing?
Yeah, man. I gotta give all props to one of my really close friends, Manny Abreu. They're a really tight trans artist out in Portland now, but we grew up together. And basically, let me take actually a step back. Growing up in the Bronx, like I said, drugs, guns, gangs, and all that shit. Looking out my window, I'd see people get stomped out and people smoking crack and all that shit. And behind all those actions that were happening was the graffiti. So I think I just made that automatic association with the two. It's just around. But my friend Manny, came over to my house one day in, summer of 8th grade or something. And they showed me Style Wars, and like everyone, it changed after that. But, I think that the ball started rolling a little bit before Style Wars because I think it coincided with the time where, being that young, I started to become a lot more politically aware of what was happening in my neighborhood and society. And I think once I saw Style Wars and once I saw folks who looked like me doing shit like that and, coming off correct and clean and with style, I was like, yo, it's a wrap. I got to come back and do this every Sunday. Right. So, yeah, I mean, it really changed my whole perspective on shit.
Just the single seeing Star Wars for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it was about that movie, but I think just at that point, I was just really into hip hop and seeing the sounds and seeing the Bronx and seeing the colors and the characters in the documentary. It just all vibed with me in it, and it just brought this human face to something that was like so faceless for so long. And, that had this narrative around it constructed by, media and society that it was.
You see it as like a whole life too.
Yeah.
It takes it more from just some paint on the walls to like, yo, there's like a culture behind this. There's people, there's like family, there's friends, there's amazing
100.
moments. Like these people are mad into it.
Yeah. 100.
And I can get mad into it and
Exactly.
I can legit like change my life and maybe even love my life more.
Exactly.
Just through doing this one thing. It's really cool, but like, yeah, you saw people, you would look out your window and see people getting stomped out. You see like drugs, just like substance abuse and violence. How do you think that affected your mind? It's so crazy. Like you're born into this life.
Yeah.
You don't know where you're going to be born into or who your family's going to be or in what neighborhood.
It's a crapshoot.
And in the beginning, it's like you were very impressionable. You're like a sponge and you put a dry sponge in water and it just soaks it all up immediately.
Yeah.
How do you think that affected your mindset?
Yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit about it earlier, but I'm first gen here, so I think my mentality at that age, ever since I was young, my parents were like, "Yo, you cannot be outside fucking around with these kids." They like really sheltered me. So I think there was definitely a big fear of that, in like being outside and seeing all these cats like wilding out and shit, and watching the news, like the '90s, crazy times, right? I was listening to the Styles P on the way here, actually, and there's this line in that song, Good Times. He's like, I smoke weed till my lungs collapse. I'm from the era where ninjas, cause terror over guns and crack. And that's exactly what it was. And I was terrified, seeing that shit. And, my parents also, they decided to put me in a school, a private school, a little early on, just to keep me away, because a lot of the shit that goes down happens in schools too, right?
Yeah.
A lot of I don't want to say bad kids, but there's just a lot of negative influences in these schools that can cause you to experience it not only in your block, but in places where you're supposed to get away from that. So I think there was attempts to take me completely out of that environment and out of that situation. So it definitely impacted, initially my outlook on shit.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I was gonna just say that's amazing that you've seen past that, because like at a young age, even if your parents are strict and they restrict you from like don't look at those kids or don't do that, that actually sparks the curiosity in
Yeah,
young kids.
yeah,
They're like,
yeah.
I do want to do that now
Yeah.
just because my parents said I shouldn't.
For
You know what I
sure.
mean? So it's sick that you on your own looked at these people getting stomped out outside your window
Mhm.
and like these drugs and killings and everything going on and being like, I want something that's behind that, like graffiti, which
For
like we were
sure.
talking about is like can be a very positive thing, especially compared to those things. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like
yeah.
the further you get into that life, I think the worse and worse it gets. But graffiti, you can kind of like control it in a way if you
Yeah.
don't get into like drugs and all that stuff. you
Yeah,
know?
no, you got a great point there. Like, graffiti has been a vehicle for, self discovery for me, as well as discovering a lot more about other people, my environment, the city I live in. And I think that discovery just nurtures this curiosity within you that allows you to see beyond those, like, whatever kind of bullshit barriers or walls that, our parents, society, our teachers, anyone really can put in front of us to see what's actually, behind and the truth behind that. So
Yeah, it really is all about perspective if you think about it, because someone might see someone get stomped out or like gangsters in your neighborhood, and some people might stray away from that and be like, yo, that makes me afraid. I want to get away from that. It's like straight up, it's like the devil, like hell on earth.
yeah.
But then some people might see it and be like,
100%.
yo, I need to stomp someone out too and fast so that like I get this reputation and I'm safe from that. I actually like, yo, I want to be a gangster when I grow up. So then that way, like, I don't know, I'm
the
not the weak
respect,
link.
yeah.
I don't want to be the weak link in my neighborhood. I don't
Exactly.
want to be the kid who doesn't know things. Like I want to be street smart. I want to be like someone people respect and fear.
For sure.
And you see the people in your neighborhood, and that might be those people.
Yeah.
And it really does blow, because like depending on where your parents are from, like they have no idea of that stuff sometimes. If they can't, especially if you're first gen, like they really might not have any idea about that stuff
At all.
and like what
At all.
they're trying to do is like put a good influence in their child. Like, look, this is a hard work, this is a dedication, and this is a like they might say like a man dresses like this, a woman dresses like this. Like we are like it's important to be a gentleman, or it's important to be have like a morals and be polite. And but then you see something else and you're like, yo, that gentleman polite shit is like kind of weak.
Yeah.
You might think that, and then you might be like, damn, like my parents don't know what's good. But you're mad young, and you're like, yo, no, they like have your best interest in mind, and the streets do not
at all. And
Like,
then you get caught up in it real quick early on, right? I mean, they're block like Sheridan 167th, 170th. I used to hang on that block heavy, and that block is crazy. And I see little like kids who aren't even older than 3 years old opening the front door, running out into the block, and dudes playing dice and shootings happening. But the kids, they're just running around like it's nothing, and it's crazy. Like you get exposed to all these things at an early age. And I don't want to fault necessarily the folks who are engaging in certain activities in this neighborhood, because at the end of the day, I think this all really arises out of a politics of abandonment that is manufactured by the powers that be. So I think we got to be careful as far as where to place blame and where agency lies there. But it's complicated and complex.
I think we have like a power as well as the people coming up in this time era, and not being first gen, because if we have children, or even if we don't have children, but we got people we look after that are younger than us, we understand that they're gonna think that like the good stuff we might show is whack,
100%.
or our style is whack, and the new style or the styles they're seeing outside of the home or outside of like where they're getting nurtured isn't whack. And we understand that because we come from a place where like being first gen American, it's like, yo, it's like we see the two totally different worlds and stuff like that, and it's really important. And like you're talking about how like the music of back then really described the time period. It really did. You think about all the rap that would come out of like the Queensbridge style, and that shit was brutal. Like
crazy.
It went from that to talking about like boasting now rap is a lot about boasting. When back then it was more about like, of course, like it's always has that boasting element, but like talks about like, yo, my neighborhood is the most dangerous and I am the most live person here.
Of course.
So like, and I'm smart too. Like Nas would talk about how like being smart is like important, and it's like not about it's like Even Big L would talk about
Yeah,
like
of
being
course.
smart and
Rest
being
in
like
peace.
Prodigy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I'm live, like, or some of them would just be like I'm also aware of my mortality, like I'm skinny and whatever, but also at
For
the same
sure.
time, like I'm more live than you, and
100.
it would just talk about different things, but it would really like summarize the era really well.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, um,
No, it's interesting milieu too to grow up in, and I think at the end of the day, there's so many, you can pull into graffiti so many other influences. I see graffiti having this connection to music, arts, and even philosophy. Like I think graffiti is a really philosophical thing at the core of it in some ways. Not to over intellectualize or sound pretentious, but there are definitely avenues to these other fields and spaces in society that can help broaden your perspective on your place in society, your place in New York City, in whatever borough you're from. So
absolutely 100%. Like graffiti talks about a lot the art of getting over. That's like a common theme in graph, like getting over, whether it be from racking, like I don't pay for my paint, but then they find other means of racking other things. And it's like racking, like you can look at it a number of ways. Like it could be a positive thing in like your specific life, but it also could be a negative thing in like many other ways and shit like that.
For sure.
But like just getting over in general, like Charlie the Hustler, like legit
OG right there.
Like OG, like he has like a home but not paying rent.
For sure.
He has Wi-Fi but not paying Wi-Fi. He and then in like legal ways.
Yep.
And he's just straight up getting over. Yeah. And I think that without graph, like I think graph is a vehicle. It's like a vessel to give you an understanding of like a broader range of possibilities. Like
100%.
Because you write graph, you realize things like you would think that everyone who writes graph and racks paint is like an idiot. Like couldn't speak couldn't speak sentences.
Big
bro.
Factuals.
Like they're not gonna be able to
factuals.
speak, and but like we've spoken to mad writers, and most of them are straight up pretty fucking smart.
Yeah.
When they take those graph schemes to like real life and fucking, being in like, under the government eye, they fucking use it to their advantage and, get around.
Yeah, no, it's real.
Sick.
It's
They're
real.
not
like,
scared to take risks either. You know what I mean? They're so open-minded to like not following a straight path. They're like, oh, I'll just climb that fucking ladder and do it another way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's pretty sick.
It's crazy. I mean, graffiti definitely has taught me a lot about critical thinking. When you're on the streets, you gotta be on your P's and Q's, you know what I mean? Anything could happen. DTs roll up on you. What are you gonna do? You gotta think quickly on your feet. A hero can come through with a bat and start swinging. What are you gonna do? You gotta think quickly on your feet. You know what I mean? So we live in a time where news happens so fast and events pop up here and there. Next day, some next big shit happens, and you can't get caught flat-footed. And I think graffiti really trains your mind and body to be willing to flip on a switch and be aware of your environment, to see what, and to project and to anticipate what's to come. And the government's always 10, 20, 50, 365 steps ahead, and at least graffiti teaches you to be 10 steps ahead of the next guy. You know what I mean? So
no, 100%. And
it's dope.
Speaking about graph, so I know in another interview you talk about how you started writing graph and how you had this friend who did a rash of bank robberies, and you knew him growing up, and that's how your name came about. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I used to my mom would take me to a church on the Upper West Side when I was growing up. I'm not super religious now, but I think my time there definitely informed some of my worldviews and whatnot. But there was this kid who also attended. He was a twin, and they used to do crazy magic tricks. We were all the same age, in like what's it called, Sunday school and shit, and in the pews during sermon and all that shit. And one of the twins actually held the world record for eating the light bulb the fastest time. Kind of wild, bugged out. Yeah, they were bugged out kids. But after a while, I stopped going to church. This was when I started, 12 years old, 13. I started to get into graffiti, and, I'd skip confirmation class and, start smoking weed with my friends and play video games, all that shit. So after a while, I lost touch with a lot of these guys. And then, I want to fast forward, I'm well into graffiti at this point. I think I'm in, I want to say college at this point. And I come back on break and I hear this news report about, you know, a rash of bank robberies happening around New York City, where this guy would walk into the bank and hand the teller a note saying that he has a bomb or whatever. And the teller would just give him a bag of money, and he would walk out and disappear into the streets. And they said when he got caught, the reason why he got caught was he hit a bank a second time, the same bank he robbed a few weeks earlier. And the teller followed him and saw him run into a building with one set of clothes and then come out looking completely different. So they were like the criminal's MO. He'd walk in with a note and, you know, come out and change his clothes and just disappear in the city. I was like, oh shit, the MO. I studied Latin back in elementary school, so I had a little bit of a vocabulary to kind of understand what, you know, MO means, which is modus operandi. So something kind of gelled with me then with that phrase, and I was like, yeah, modus operandi. I like that. And I think at that point in my graffiti career, I was really into not necessarily the end product of writing, you know, the throw up that's left, the tag, the piece, whatever. I was more interested in the process. Like, how do I get to that tag? How do I get to the spot to do that piece? You know, how do I leave a spot and not be seen and, you know, get a flick the next day? I was really interested in the methods behind the act of creating and the act of creating itself rather than the end result. So, you know, modus operandi means modes of operation, methods of operation. So, you know, it just kind of gelled in. I just ran with it.
So you had already been writing for a little bit before that.
Yeah. I started like in 8th grade, you know. So I've been writing since I was 13. And I, you know, did a bunch of name changes. But then I was really, you know, I was just vibing off of Style Wars and shit. So it was all about pieces to me, like rocking burners and shit. So I kind of feel like I kind of got it fucked up and flipped, where I didn't really focus on, you know, the fundamentals of going out and bombing. I was just so obsessed with getting a dope style, which is in some ways good. You know, I advocate people sticking to books and really working on styles, but to some degree too, you gotta be out there and actually doing it. You actually gotta be like learning the methods of how to, you know, burn or how to bust out a dope tag or something, you know what I mean? So
no, dude, 100%. Like, your pieces are sick. Let me just say that.
I appreciate
right
it.
right off the bat. Like, you know, and you stand out. Like, when you do your pieces next to a bunch of throwies, especially New York City, like,
sure,
people are like, yo, what the fuck is that shit?
Exactly.
That looks clean as hell, you know?
Exactly.
So, like, you were saying, like, one of your big influences, Wayne, right? COD.
Yep. Wayne, shouts out to Wayne. He's a big influence. And that's another thing too. You know, what do they say in Style Wars? Graffiti is a vocation in New York, right? It's traditions passed down from one youthful generation to the next. And, you know, dudes like Wayne have been big mentors to me. And I would not be where I am without, you know, the older guys who took me under their wing and were down to school me and teach me things about graffiti and teach me things about the city. And, you know, I think, you know, I kind of lament the fact that I feel like that generational connection isn't as much as it should be there, you know, in our day and age. But I think things are changing too, because I now see a lot of older cats bombing with guys from our generation, right? You know what I mean? And I think that's a great thing and should continue to happen. But, you know, I can't stress enough that graffiti is a craft, right? And it's knowledge that's handed down from one person to the next. And you can't learn that shit in a book. You can learn that shit in the streets, and you can learn that shit from your mans or the guy who puts you on. So
yeah, and the things that you learn in graph really can be, well, the things that you learn in anything really can be used in different parts of your life.
Yeah, 100%.
Like you learn lessons, like you just said, that you can't learn in a book. You learn in the streets. You learn out while you're doing it. You learn through just years of meeting people and just performing actions with like said people that you met. And it's like it really is like I have like a mixed relationship with graph, but it really is like, if you use it to the full potential, I think its full potential is not just being king, not just having throws on every block,
100%.
but also like
say it louder for the folks in the back.
Yeah, you learn mad lessons, dude.
No, it's true.
You learn mad lessons, and you're just not you're doing some stuff that most people would deem very not normal, and also some, like, a fewer people would deem like straight up impossible, and it's like you're learning stuff. There's so much I could go into in terms of that, but like, you're learning shit that like you should not. It sucks, like, seeing so many graph writers fall victim to just like early deaths via substances. Like, of course, like, rest in peace to all the legends who have died.
All of them.
And it's like, it really blows to see because they have so much potential. Like I was reading the autobiography of Malcolm X, and he talked about this one guy that he met while he was in prison, and this prisoner could he would outsmart all of the guards during like a conversation. Like they would talk, and everyone would shut the fuck up and listen to what this prisoner had to say because he was known for saying mad crazy stuff, but crazy intelligent. I'm saying.
Yeah.
And then like he would also like he'd had certain things figured out in terms of numbers and like the food and how to deal with this and how to deal with that and pretty much how to make his stay as comfortable as possible. And he had everything memorized. And he would talk to Malcolm X, and Malcolm X wrote like to himself, like he kept it inside that like this dude was legit a genius, and that if he had used his essential like intelligence outside of prison, like outside of that street life, he would have legit like been on some like Jeff Bezos shit, or like been able to come up with this method of making mad money, or just pretty much doing whatever he felt like doing, like he could have done with his ability to just run the prison when he should be the weakest link in the prison and shit like that. And it's like, but it's the same thing with a graph writer or even like a teacher, or even anything, like everything that you learn in your vocation. If it's a vocation and like it's like a certain path, I feel like you could use that for mad things. Like for example, the example of a teacher, like let's say English teacher in high school, seemingly like a not that important role. You could be like, oh, I'm a teacher in high school. It's like, Psych. Yeah, seriously, like you have so much power, and depending on how seriously you take that job and what you do with it,
100.
You could change kids' lives forever.
Straight up. Yo, my high school art teacher, Miss McKenzie, shouts out to her. She definitely, really made me lean into the graffiti thing, because she told me it was totally cool and okay. Like she took us to school trips to Five Points when that shit was around, and we watched like graffiti documentaries in school because she knew I was into it, and she knew that was something that could like really make me engaged in school, especially being in a school where, I definitely didn't fit in, and I definitely came from a whole other different kind of circumstance, and I take lessons that she taught me to me everywhere, when I'm bombing, when I travel, wherever I go, so like to your point, like being a teacher, being a mentor to someone who's younger than you, to someone who needs guidance, is definitely something that is impactful and is going to change the world in a much more positive way. And it's something that we cannot underestimate. And it's a shame that, the first things to go when we're cutting budgets, whether it's in school or government budgets, what is it? Arts, education, you know what I mean? Those are the first things to go. And those are investments for the future. And if we're not going to be investing in ourselves, in the potentiality that exists within all of us, it's not going to pan out. That's why the world's fucked up. That's why we got global warming. That's why we got people killing each other. Because at the end of the day, our society runs on a necropolitics, it's a politics of death. It's a politics of negativity, specifically for, folks who society doesn't want to see thrive, the folks in prison, the folks who live in the neighborhoods we grew up in. And the end result are, individuals doing very self-destructive acts, you know what I mean? And we see it in graffiti, we see it in skateboarding, we see it in so many subcultures where, people who come from the fringe, people who come from spaces of abandonment, look to, whether it's a vice or whether it's another vehicle to escape that reality. But, that conditioning sometimes makes it difficult to, see the actions that you're doing are actually hurting yourself and not helping you escape, right? So
no, 100%.
It's deep.
It's crazy to think about like destiny and shit, because it's so easy to look at someone else and be like, yo, this kid or like this person or man or whatever is like, let's say you're on the train in New York and a homeless guy walks on and he's extremely, like, he's forcing it. He's mad annoying. Like, he's annoying you. There's no way around it. Like, he's the way he's going about it. He smells bad, so his smell is annoying you. He's starting to talk to you, but he's not really making sense. It's annoying the shit out of you. And it's easy to be like, yo, get the fuck out of my face. Like, you're annoying me. Facts. But then at the same time, it's like, this person, we don't know their story. They might have been born into a household with a broken ass home. Then they looked for support elsewhere. They did this and that. Before they knew it, all their friends were this. Then they naturally got into drugs. Then they didn't know how to deal with depression well, because they didn't have a mother or father to teach them the way that, let's say, we had. And it was all almost borderline outside of their control.
Yeah.
And 100%. Then the spoiled ones who had all of these blessings handed to
Privilege
us
as fuck.
by straight like luck.
Straight up.
We look at them and we're like, you fucking idiot, yo, get out of my face.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be like that.
At
And
all,
it's
at all.
like it's hard to not
Yeah.
think like that
No,
sometimes.
Yeah,
I agree.
no,
I
it's
agree
real.
completely. Like, you have to come from a point of understanding. You know, it's hard to do sometimes
Yeah.
because, like, I feel like in the society of social media, like all these factors, you come straight from like a judgmental point of view. You know, as soon as you see somebody, like naturally, you're just like judging their like physical appearance in a way. You know what I mean?
100.
And like what he was talking about with the train, like a homeless dude, I actually had a situation like that about a year ago. I get on the train, like I was kind of also dirty because like I'm a plumber. All my shit was like, you know, I'm like a homeless fucking smelling dude. And there was like a fucking
I'm down with the bum aesthetic though. I rock with it too, so don't worry.
right. So there was like a dude, like white collar dude, you know, like fucking clean suit, like I get on the train and there's like a homeless dude in the corner, like sitting on the chairs, and this white collar dude like gets up and moves away from him, you know, because the dude kind of, you know, like he doesn't want to be around that, I guess. So I sit next to the homeless dude, right, and I see that he's like, you know, had his head down and like he's not like threatening, but like, and I'm like, and he starts talking to me, right. And we're the only ones in this corner because nobody wants to sit next to him. But like, I don't know. I was just like, let me sit next to him. And bro, we ended up talking for like an hour. He told me his whole life story, bro. I was like, I don't even know. I probably was crying. Let's say I was crying.
For sure.
And like fucking, bro, he was like he's been through so much shit. You know what I mean? And like, bro, when we got off the train, like, bro, we fucking like gave each other a hug. I don't even give a fuck. And I was like, yo, like, I wish you the best, bro. Like, and like, you gotta, like, he's human, you know what I mean? He has a soul, bro. If you have a soul, you have potential, you know what I mean? Like, you're still worth a shot. You get what I'm saying?
Straight up, I agree.
And
100%.
like, in a way, like, that dude probably had more soul than the white collar dude. Like, I don't want to be judgmental either, but like,
no, but true.
Like, fuck it. That was more of a human interaction than that dude getting away from him. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%. Like, you know, I studied some anthropology in school and shit, and the study of anthropology is, you know, the study of cultures and humans. And I think one of the fundamental ideologies that runs through anthropology as a study is that humans are fundamentally social beings. You know, we need that human connection between us. You know, our society, none of us could survive without other people. You know what I mean? And well, we get this message from society that's very individualistic. Go for self, you know, provide for yourself and your own peoples, which to extent, you know, do you know, whatever you got to do to survive. But we also got to see the interconnectedness between us as individuals as well. And one early experience that I had that your story kind of reminded me was kind of crazy. I was, you know, this was early on too in my graffiti writing career too. I was on the one train heading to the Freedom Tunnel, and I actually bumped into Stay High 149.
Oh shit!
On the train, and if you've ever seen him, you know, like a lot of folks on the train were like, "What is this kid?" I was like 14, 13 at the time, talking to this dude who looks bugged out and everything. But you know, I knew this guy's a fucking legend, and Stay High was mad cool, and I was telling him, "Yo, I'm gonna go down the Freedom Tunnel." He was like, yeah, throw me up, blah, blah, blah. Yo, I wish you the best. You know, we should go paint sometime. And it was so sick to, you know, be able to vibe with him. So fast forward, I go into the Freedom Tunnel. I'm dolo by myself. And I see this fucking dude in there, butt ass naked. And he's just taking a shower with a bucket of water that I don't know how he got this bucket of water down there. But, you know, I stop and we just start talking. I'm literally a 13-year-old kid having a full-on conversation with this naked dude who lives in a tunnel. And he was telling me he doesn't feel safe in a homeless shelter. The Freedom Tunnel is his home because that's where he feels the safest. And, you know, thinking back, if I were a parent, I'd be like, sorry. I'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? Get the fuck out of there. Don't talk to this guy. You know, what the fuck? But, you know, I think that experience also just made me realize, like, yo, I have no idea where these people are coming from. I have no idea their experience, what they're going through. And this guy was one of the kindest people I've ever met. And it's in the dark underground in a dark ass tunnel where I theoretically could be killed or raped or whatever, beat the fuck up, right? But you gotta kind of you gotta take that leap of faith too with other people, right? And you gotta take that leap of faith and believe, like, hey, they're just out trying to live their best life and we can live our best life together. And let me be willing to share whatever gifts I have and you share whatever gifts you have, and let's build the world we want to see together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Something that I've been thinking about while you guys would talk about that, when it was you talking about the guy who smelled and then you ended up giving him a shot and he was a pretty sick human, or you being seeing the man who was in the tunnel showering because he feels more safe there than his other option and shit like that, and talking about people who you see and not giving them a shot. And realistically, like everything that we do, and talking about being social humans, like realistically, like everything that we do, like at the end of the day, we're straight up animals. And
100.
what we do is like we try to ensure our survival. Number one, like number one thing, survival. So like if I was hungry, and I like everything I'm thinking about is hunger. But the moment someone comes at me with a knife, everything ever, legit ever, will take a wayside to the knife because I need to, number one, ensure my survival and then go
Exactly.
from there. So like in terms of like socialization, they say that like one of the reasons that humans love to gossip, like they love to talk about other humans and look, did you see what this guy did? Did you see, that's why we like seeing the news and other shit like that, which is like a very human thing. It's a very like homo sapien thing. Like other
Yeah.
animals do not do that.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It's because like we must know, like when we have a tribe of like, let's say 50 humans, who's good at what, who should I not trust, who, this is the way that we've been able to survive for so many years. And now in terms of like so that's like with the whole socialization thing, like we want to know what, for example, modus is. Modus dangerous? Like does modus, like what beefs has he had and who, because I have to know, because like this is going to help me know how I'm going to interact with him. So in a way I'm gossiping, but it's for a purpose.
Word.
Or like, did this girl or this guy cheat on their significant other? Can I trust them if I'm going to get into a relationship with them? Like, what did he do to his boy's girl? Like,
Mhm.
will I be able to? We're gossiping, which just
Yeah.
seemed like such a negative, like not cool thing. But it's like we're legit ensuring our survival. But I think the
100%.
same thing comes with when you're on the train. Like, for example, smells like that tells my animalistic mind of disease,
Mhm,
which like I
mhm.
need to fucking stay away from, because like
yeah.
my internal cells, like my DNA does not know that we live in a society now that has crazy medicines. Like
Yeah.
all it's thinking about is like you might catch some crazy shit, and if you do, like you could straight up die.
100%.
And I need to survive, number one, or like
yeah.
let's get away from this guy. And I think that what we have to do is use our rational mind. Like now we know that we live in a society where medicine does exist, or now we know that this and the third. Of course, we can't ever get rid of that animalistic instinct to survive, but also like we're not just animals no more.
Yeah.
We got mad, like I know when my next meal is going to be. So if I find a meal, I don't have to body the whole shit and get mad full just in case my next meal is not for 50 hours. Like I know exactly, I can choose when it's going to be,
Yeah.
and pretty much exactly what it's going to be.
Yeah.
So like I need to get out of that animalistic zone of only thinking of survival. And like it's not like when you see this homeless dude on the train, it's not like we even it's not like we consciously are like, yo, survival. But like our deep instinct is like, yo, get away from me.
Yeah.
Yo, this dude came on the train and I legit saw him. And my plan was like, yo, if he like stops in front of me and is like threatening in any type of way, like I'm going to
Ready.
legit start snuffing him. Like as soon as I like, he was not gonna have a chance
About
to know
that action.
like what happened. That's what I like was thinking. And it's only because of survival.
Yeah.
Like I saw him and immediately my animal mind was like, he will attack and I have to live. Like that's all I
feel
thought
you.
of.
I feel
But
you.
it's like, dude, that's so fucked up. Like he walked past me not knowing that like I'm straight up like so cautious and ready to straight up like attack right now.
For sure.
Like instantly, I'm ready to flip it right now. And he's just fucking going about his day. Maybe he's like, just had like the worst day ever and he just wants some kindness and love. And like I or other people are sitting there being like, yo, if this dude like stops in front of me, like I'm like afraid of for my own survival, and I'm ready to. And yo, we live in a world, especially in New York, everywhere in the world, not even especially in New York, because actually there are mad places and countries that are mad fucked up.
Crazy.
Yeah.
But like in New York, it's like you're on the train and you're like in a state of survival.
Yeah.
You need to, especially with all the attacks that have been going down right now, yo, like you need to be on the train, like protecting yourself. Number one, like it's like boxing. It's like, yo, protect yourself at all times. You step on this, yo, do not just be on your phone lurking. Like be aware of who's around you, because
for sure.
And that does not create an environment where we can actually be kind to another.
No,
because
it's true.
I'm number one
It's
worried
true.
about not you or your feelings. I'm straight up worried about like me getting stabbed, because I just watched on the news like 10 people get stabbed for no reason.
Yeah.
So
For
how
sure.
like who's to blame here?
For
Is
sure.
it the human who like let's say, is it us who are judging people? Like say we're judging people. Like is it us who are judging them? or like was it out of our control too?
Yeah, no, there's a lot to unpack there, and I'm glad you brought all that up. It's crazy, man. Like, let me start off with a real small, quick story.
Yeah.
There was one time I was hopping on the D train, and the D is one of the most bugged out trains, in my opinion, in addition to some of the other Bronx trains. But
No, I agree 100%.
right? Bugged out train. Heading uptown from 145th. This is like 10 in the morning. I'm coming home from a friend's house the night before I crashed there. A little, hungover, whatever. Get on the train, packed full of fucking people. And I see one seat open. It's this guy, his backpack, and a free seat. And you know how the D is like a 3-seater and a 2-seater? 2 women sitting in the 2-seater. So I'm like, bet that free seat, I'm going to take it. I'm kind of hungover. I need to sit. I need to chill, go home, whatever. The dude's strap was a little bit on his seat. So I'm like about to sit down. I don't touch his bag. I just like do that to the strap. Just like, don't do anything crazy,
Yeah.
This guy looked fucking normal. Like he just looked like some normal, Bronx dude, whatever, some dude on the train. Put on my headphones, I'm chilling, vibing, whatever. All of a sudden I see this guy stand up. He like fixes his coat and he just pulls out the biggest machete I've ever seen in my life. Grabs me by the shirt and puts it to my neck. Everyone gets up from the train, mind you, packed train, and they just run to one end of the train. And dude is just like, curse him. He's like, yo, I'm cut off your head. Bronx niggas mad soft, blah, blah, blah. I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna put you on World Star. No one does anything. And to an extent, I get it. And to your point, it's that, survival mode
instinct
kicks in, right?
Yeah, that's what you'll think.
People are like, yo, this guy is about to literally decapitate this dude on the train. And I kind of hit into a survival mode too. And I'm like, I'm just like this.
Yeah. Like, yo,
dude,
get this knife away from my jugular vein.
But all I can just say is, bro, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Just like that. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry. And between 145th and the Bronx, it's kind of a ways. It's like, 5-10 minute ride. So the entire time, dude is just holding me down. I'm getting little cuts on my neck. Train starts to pull in. I feel him losing the grip. I get out. And then he's just standing there. The door is open. I'm obviously getting out of the train. And the thing that didn't get me was not the fact that no one did anything, but the fact that like I was one of like 3 people to leave the train. Everyone else stayed on the train with this fucking guy who's just waving this. It had all these ridges and shit. I don't even know what the fuck it was. But and the train pulls away and I'm nervously standing on the platform. And this woman comes up to me and was like, yo, I saw the whole thing happen. I don't know how you stayed calm during the entire time. I have appreciation for life now, and I'm sure you do as well. Come upstairs with me. We'll talk to the booth guy. I already told him what happened. He called it in, blah, blah, blah. But I say that whole story, all that to say, like, yo, this guy didn't look homeless. This guy didn't smell bad. He just looked like some dude, like, who's on the train. And lo and behold, this guy has, like, this fucking however long knife sword thing on him and is ready to cut off my head. And the woman was telling me over touching,
like, imagine it had been something serious,
right over a backpack, the strap of a backpack. And the woman told me like, yo, you should go home and start journaling and just, cherish every moment because you never know what's gonna happen. You never know who's gonna do anything. And she's right, yo. I had no idea this. So again, I say that all to say, like, the media has said all this stuff about, homeless people bugging out, blah, blah, blah. And it's happening. Don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, the question of agency always comes up to me again. Like, all right, these people are in a position where they have there are resources out there, but who's connecting to the resources? Like, how can we like create a society where folks don't have to like live underground in the winter and then not see daylight for days on end? Like, that shit's gonna make you go crazy, right? And eat out of a trash can. That shit's gonna make you go crazy. You're living with rats and roaches, bro. Like, I don't know.
It'll legit make you go crazy.
It'll legit make you go crazy. So I don't know. It's like, yo, you never know who's the wolf in sheep's clothing, right? So like, I'm always, again, I thank our feed for this. It really made me realize, like, never judge a book by cover, but always keep your head on a swivel because you never know, a cop is gonna hop out of that taxi cab. A hero's gonna come after you. You know what I mean? Like, you just never know. So you gotta be aware, but you also gotta be thinking on your feet and, also just critically think about the people around you and not only just judge them by the surface, because there's a lot
You
more
have
than the
to
surface.
you have to appreciate life.
Yeah, no,
Exactly.
I completely agree. And that story was fucking bugged out.
Yo,
But
and graffiti, yo, believe me,
It's
y'all
funny-
know you crazy graffiti.
It's funny when like like someone sits in that chair, you never know the story they're gonna say. Like it could literally be like nothing, or it could be like the craziest shit. But what I was gonna say is that like you definitely need a balance. You know what I mean? Like I said earlier, like it seems like I just like fucking hug and like cry with every homeless person I see. You know what I mean? It's definitely not like that. Like, and I think like graffiti in a way, like you said, it teaches you how to read situations, vibes, like people. But like you said, there is that like 2% where like a white collar dude pulls out a fucking chainsaw and starts like cutting everybody. Like you know what I mean?
I think it's important to know too. It's like that life can straight up go from 0 to 100 and 100 to 0 at the flip of a switch, and something that you can learn from a lot of instances in life. Like I was telling you on the way up here that like I train jiu-jitsu, we train jiu-jitsu, and like a lot of it has to do with like the study of positions when you're like fighting certain positions. And if you really study the certain positions, you realize that like one of the best positions that you can have turns into, with one move, turns into one of the worst positions you can have. Actually, most of the best positions you can have, like the best ones, the most dominating ones, where the only thing your opponent can do is defend himself and cannot attack you pretty much in any type of way, can turn into your legit hell, legit like with one move. Yeah. And that's the same thing in life and the same thing in graph. Like you see a lot of people who have been painting maybe new or maybe just haven't been chased in a while, and they're like, yo, everything's good. Everything's always completely good until it's legit not for like one time. And then you go from like, I haven't been chased or anything in mad long. And then it goes from like the best scenario, which is like time of your life, to you're legit running for your actual life, thinking like, the fuck did I do this for?
Literally. And I can't tell you how many times I've been hiding under a bench, getting my ass bit by mosquitoes, asking myself, what the fuck am I doing with my life? Like,
yeah, it makes you appreciate life. Like yours is an extreme example. Like one moment you're on the train having a good time, like listening to music, and the next like there's a straight up like straight up ape of wrath, like the behemoth man that like grabs you by the shirt and says like, I will end your life right now with nothing in his hands, with no remorse and also nothing to gain but the satisfaction of what I feel like doing right now. So what the fuck are you gonna do about it? And like the reality is like, well, seeing as you have this knife to my neck and I like legit just caught extremely off guard, and my instinct as an animal is like, what will quickly calculate what will make me survive. And also all the others around you, like let's say that one of your brothers were there, they're gonna get up and probably help you, but that's because they're like, this dude is like my soul and blood. Whereas neighbors are like, the fuck I care if this person dies. I'm gonna get up and be like, hey, stop that. And the dude's gonna finish this kid and then go finish me.
They're looking for their own survival.
And it's easy to say, bro, I woulda. Dude, unless you're there.
Facts. And that's one thing I learned in that moment, because you think shoulda, coulda, woulda, until you got that thing on your neck, until you got a gun point to your head, you don't know what you're gonna do. So you definitely gotta be on point, 100%. But also when you're in those moments, sometimes it's not the best to act on that instinct, because that, like you said, that instinct could really put you in a worse position. You think you're in a better position? Nah, psych.
You're actually in the worst position ever.
Worst position ever. So
that's absolutely real. Crazy to hear that. I've seen some stuff on the train. I've been blessed to not have had any incident like that, but it's crazy to think that it could happen. Like you see this video of this dude get on the train and randomly start poking random people. It's like, what if I was on the train?
Crazy.
What would I have done? Let's say like
this shit's happening daytime, right?
And almost like every single week,
every single day,
every single dude, 100%. It's crazy. They need to do something quick. And it's crazy to think that like we all want, like we live in a democracy, right? And we're able to vote and choose what happens. That's the theory of it. We're pretty much the only country, or at least the first one, to have been able to do this successfully, and it's led to a lot of great things, right? Obviously, our country has mad problems, but if you actually understand history and the history of the countries around us, we are extremely lucky, and we're lucky as humans right now living to have been born into this very small portion in time where we have like freedoms beyond our wildest dreams that other countries either only have because they have mirrored our system, or they're like, we're mad lucky. But we also should realize that it might not last forever and probably will not 100% last forever. And like, it's not going to last forever.
100%.
But if you look at it and you think like, all right, if I say I was a politician and like the system was not corrupt and I could legit like put out a law out there and be like, yo, who wants this? Vote and we'll legit make it happen, right? That seems fucking amazing. So let's say that I was like, yo, what's a big problem? Homelessness in the trains. People are getting stabbed and there's legit actual mad crazy high level violence going down in our subway systems that people depend on to go to work. Right? So I lay all that down in a speech that I just talked in like legit 10 seconds. Did not take long to rouse up some emotion. And like everybody knows, like everyone's like, yo, you're fucking right. Yo, like I feel like I have to protect my life. And also I've seen mad crazy shit. And you're like, okay, this is what we're going to do about it. There is mad empty places in New York because rent is astronomically through the roof. So for the meantime, if we're not renting those out, let's say that like the homeowners like want to rent it for crazy bread. Okay, when you do get someone, then you fill it. But for now, until that day comes, we have these homeless people here. We feed and give food. We have mad food kitchens, and there is 100% enough food. We give them this and heat, and then like what they have to do in return is like this, down the third. That's going to benefit them, and it's also going to benefit like because they get home. It's also going to benefit us because now the people are happy with the government, and then also it's going to benefit the people because now I don't have to worry about getting a machete pulled on my neck because I stepped on someone's like edge of a cotton of their backpack. Yeah. And then like also it benefits the homeless people because like I often or a number of times have given out food at Tompkins at like Saturdays. There's like this thing called Chili's on Wheels where they give out food. Do you know how many times like there's still mad food left simply because the hungry or homeless people do not know that they can go there?
100.
What you do is you give that left over to, let's say, the apartments that these people are filled in, and then it's more efficient as opposed to taking the food and putting it in the fridge for next time, or even maybe throwing it away, or legit trying to give it to people who aren't even homeless, like they're just walking by because we have so much.
Yeah.
And it's like a total inefficiency, and it seems like that there's no reason besides like corruption that this should be there because clearly we all want this.
For sure.
Who the fuck wants the MTA to be dangerous? I'm sure the MTA doesn't want that because they're losing business.
Hell no.
I try to not take the train as much as humanly possible because of that very reason. And so the MTA doesn't want it. We don't want it. The homeless people don't want it. You think they like getting looked at and having you know when the train is like this, one homeless dude, everyone packed on the other side.
Fucked up.
Dude, they probably feel like a legit animal.
For sure.
So who wants this?
For
okay,
sure.
Nobody. And who gets it? Everybody.
For sure.
So it's like, why is this happening? And it's because our system's not working.
Yeah.
I wish that there was a way to fix this as soon as possible because it's not working more and more every day.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say about the homelessness on the train is like I seen a program. I was at Coney Island Station one time just waiting for the train to pull out, and I see these like two people with like a clipboard or whatever like come up to a homeless dude, and I was like seeing what they were like. I knew they had something to do with like getting him off the train, like providing him with some type of service. You know, they look like those kind of people, and they would come up to him and they would just be like, it seemed very procedure. Like they just like, I don't know, like fucking tapped him on his cardboard and like try to, like, I didn't hear what they were saying, but I assumed they were like, yo, excuse me, like, would you like, you know, to live in this shelter? We can do that for you. Like, this is the address. We can like, whatever. That's probably what they said. And he was just like, nah, like I'm good here. And they were like, bet. And they just like left. And that was the end of it.
Yeah,
like,
it's real.
They like, I don't know.
It's a two-way street, you know, it's a two-way street because on one end, you know, our society definitely needs more, but on the other end, the individual also needs to want to, you know, in some ways get to a place where they feel like they can make that change in their life, you know. But I want to go real quick back to your point about democracy, because I think there's a tie-in here. I think one of the things a lot of people in our society forget is that yes, we're in a democracy. Yes, we got all those freedoms, but that democracy it's a twin. It's a twin-headed monster, right? We have this really nice, good side of democracy, but then there's a dark side of democracy, and that dark side, at least in American democracy, is the fact that we're the country with the largest prison population, right? We lock up the most people than any other country in the world, but we're the land of the free.
Legit any other country.
Legit any other country.
Like our prison population the population living in prison is
bigger
larger
than countries.
Yes.
Bigger
That's
than
insanity.
fucking countries. Insanity. Yeah. There's that. There's the whole question around slavery, right? This country was built on slavery, a democracy built on the subjugation and the lack of freedom and democracy for certain segments of the population, right? Then there's the whole Native American genocide. This land, this literal land, the city that we're living in is stolen land. So we're building these laws and these ideas of democracy and freedom on top of or alongside actions which are completely antithetical to that idea, right? And I think that's why we're seeing all these, you know, antagonisms and these clashes that are arising in our society today, because fundamentally that contradiction can't really exist in a way that's gonna be. That's why,
like, it has to be addressed.
Yeah, it has to be
which
addressed,
it's not being
and
addressed.
it's not being addressed. You know, and I hope it gets addressed. And I think, and I don't want to, you know,
like, I'm legit,
everything
like,
graffiti, but
I'm legit, like,
let me see that.
Going to try, like, I just decided that I'm like going to try to like do something with this platform that like will address it, like in some sort of
Y'all already
some
doing
way.
it. You're already
like, some
doing
way.
it.
Planting at least some
like
seeds.
You're
we're doing
planting
something,
seeds.
but like, so here, like, since we're talking about democracy, I want to like get back to it. So like, there's this another big problem with democracy that is like, which I love. Like, I enjoy the fact that we are in a place where we can vote, however skewed that vote is and however like meaningless it may be. But like, it's cool that at least like it's like there's like at least an image of a choice.
Bro,
there are other places where there's not
vote
even an
every
image
chance
of a
I
choice.
get. Yeah, you gotta vote. At the end of the day, whether or not it
Mhm.
matters, you do gotta exercise your supposed
And
right.
you should be knowledgeable
your
of this
voice
current
heard.
political scene because it will affect you.
100%.
Like, it's going to
especially
affect you.
local
So
politics
even if you
too.
don't believe in it, it will affect you. Like, there's a guy who said like, I may not be religious, but all these people are, and it will affect the way that they interact with
100%.
me. Like, for example, but so what I was saying is like, there's like a problem with democracy that people talk about. Dictators have talked about it. Philosophers have talked about it. And I'm sure that the majority of people will agree that it's like, so like the 5%ers, they talked about how there's but this wasn't about democracy, but this is, I'm just going to tie this into like a greater whole.
For sure.
They talk about how it's like there's an 85%, then there's a 10%, and then there's a 5%. The 10% are the rich who are fooling the 85%. The 85% like are not able to think for themselves. They're trapped by this or that, and the 5% are like the true noble last ones left.
Yeah.
And then there's Aristotle talked about like what is the good for humanity, and he talked about the good depends on who you ask. So like a painter will think like good is this, and a doctor will think good is this, but he made it even broader, and he talks about how like there's the masses, which he called the vulgar, that will think about like good as this, right? But then the 5%ers talked about the masses too. It's the 85%. We could just kind of call that the vulgar. Like the 5%ers thought the same thing as Aristotle did, in completely different eras, like completely different time frames. Like the 5%ers were legit like ready to do anything that they had to do, whereas like Aristotle sat and like thought about shit.
For sure.
And then like the very rowdy dictators have talked about like there's 3 types of people who intake media: the people who believe nothing, the people who believe everything, and then the people who, using their knowledge, like see and like decipher. And then the people who believe nothing are the 85%. Or they're called the masses and the vulgar, or he said they're the majority of the population, which is sad because when they believe nothing, they miss out on a lot of truths. But if they believe everything, they believe a lot of lies. The 5% is the one who blah, blah, blah. And then that shit just goes like on and on of like legit so many great people in history or significant people in history. Like I'm not going to say dictators are great, but they've also taught us a lot of lessons that we can learn how we go about our future.
100%.
Long story short, like, we live in a place where even if democracy is legit as fuck, like if we do have a very real democracy, not based off of corruption, not based off of slavery or racism, if we did have that, we still have a fat majority of the people who can be influenced by, let's say, the 10%, which can be the media, which it straight up is.
100%.
And then like you use this to like influence the 85%. And if you think like, oh no, I'm not influenceable, everybody, even the 5%, is influenceable. Of
course.
Like
we're humans.
We're humans. Like I look at a human and
Fucking
immediately
humans,
am
bro.
influenced and judge like what I shall do and how I shall talk to the person.
Yeah.
Like if you think you're like, oh, I'm bias free. Like I think this not because I seen it on the news or because I heard it on the radio. I think this because I'm smart. Like, yeah, we all, every single one of us has a straight up supercomputer in our brain. Yeah, we're all smart in a way.
Infinitely deep too.
But like, we're all influenceable. And if you don't think that the media is influencing us, thus like taking control in our democracy,
You bugging.
you're bugging out. You don't
Bugging.
understand history, and you don't understand what legit every single like philosopher, dictator, president, ruler, or like social justice legit heroes like Martin Luther King or these fucking people have realized.
Yeah, 100%.
And then you're missing out. And like Aristotle talks about like the good, and he's like, all right, let's say what's good. But wait, to say what's good, like what is good, we need to be like understanding, because he says someone cannot be cannot be a good judge of something that he or she does not understand. But seeing as the majority of our population, or let's say the 85%, according to these people, don't understand history and don't understand politics and society, then they cannot be good judges of that. And if they cannot be good judges of that, how do we give them the power to vote for their own fate
100.
when they don't fucking understand
For sure.
what the fuck has happened in the
sure.
past? It's like a huge problem that I
Yeah.
see in democracy. Like, of course, I don't want like a
Huge
fucking
problem,
dictator
bro.
to decide everything that we do, but it's like, then we as a democracy should have at least have some unchangeable rules, which is like you must study history, point blank, period. And you also must be able to like show you understand what you're voting on, because like let's say like the legalization of marijuana, which like I fuck with, right? I fuck with that. It's cool. But a lot of the people who voted it simply because they saw on the internet, vote yes on question 3, like including myself. I don't understand none of that, and I was mad, and still am young, but was mad young, and I'm just like, yo, if I don't vote yes on question 3, like I'm seriously whack,
Yeah.
and like I
Yeah.
must vote yes immediately to not be whack.
Yo, I can't hit the blunt if I don't vote yes.
Yeah, like if I don't vote yes, like everyone will think I'm whack.
Yo, facts.
But it's like, yo, I'm not understanding, and there was nothing to make me understand. Like
Yeah.
I just had to like I have the freedom to choose on something that I don't even understand.
Yeah.
It's a huge problem, bro.
It's fucked up, man. And we also live in an era where information moves so fast, and there is a concerted misinformation effort, right? There's so much disinformation like thrown in the mix with information, and with the internet and media, TV, everything. It's just so hard to discern the real from the fake, the truth from the false, and that's part of the big problem. And then there's a whole apparatus behind that legitimately pushes misinformation and intentionally tries to misinform. So it's a real big struggle right now for any.
And if you think that
individual,
like they
you know
don't
what I
try to intentionally disinform, then like, yo, they're at the end of the day, like everything is a business.
Yeah,
I'm sure that not all of it is misinformation, but if you think that there's not opposing sides and that they're using their ability for their power, then
Yeah.
of course there is. Like, just think of the way that you yourself run your Instagram. Of course it's not a direct reflection of your life. All the times you're in suffering, you don't
post it.
You don't make your life seem shitty. Well, for the most part, you make it seem amazing and great. When you go on a vacation, you don't include all the shitty parts, and you're just a regular human being with no motives other than like, oh, I don't want them to see the shitty part.
Exactly.
So imagine a huge media corporation
crazy, bro.
with motives.
It's bugged.
You think they're not gonna misinform sometimes? You got me fucked up. Like,
Yeah.
this isn't not saying like, oh, everything's fake news. Like, no, everything is not fake
everything's
news.
not fake news, but we also live in an age where the state as an institution is in some ways receding from public life, and other entities, whether it's a corporation, whether it's a quote unquote terrorist organization like the Taliban, right, in Afghanistan, or, fucking Facebook, right, Google, like these are entities that have carved out in our world like pockets of power that they can utilize and then use to influence and engage with wider masses of populations. And with that population control, you do get power, and we got to be really aware of where the information is coming from, who controls those avenues of information, in order to really be informed and make those like correct decisions and right choices that we need to make. Because apparently time ran out 2 years ago, right? The global warming thing, it's a wrap at this point.
It's a wrap.
It's a wrap, and
We're living on borrowed time. It's a wrap.
so I don't, and I don't want to come on here and say I have all the answers. I think if anything, this conversation is just bring up more questions than answers, which I think is good. But to your earlier points about trying to craft something that's gonna be bigger than graffiti, bigger than the topics we talk about, and something that's gonna impact society, I think it's important that we have these conversations, because we learn information, right, and we make those decisions on survival based on the information we learn. So it really starts with the conversation that we're having right now today, right?
No, it definitely depends on like so like I personally on like a daily basis look at life through like a kind of a spiritual lens, which is like, you know, kind of some people can say it's like not a solid way to think,
For sure.
but like to me, I don't know, it is. So
it's a different viewpoint.
And what's it called? And what the fuck was I trying to say? Oh yeah. So like what you intake, like the media,
Yeah.
like we have to be also very wary of that. You know what I mean? Like,
100.
because like you said, there's so much, I call it noise out there. You know what I mean? It's just like
you call it.
yeah, literally fucking noise, bro.
Bro, the city's already loud too, right?
Yeah, you gotta like you gotta be careful what you intake. You know what I mean? Like a big thing, like for example, like the Instagram Explore page, bro. If you like look at that shit for like an hour, I'm not kidding you, like you're gonna lose a lot of brain cells, bro.
100%.
And
how many people you're gonna see breaking their necks with a crate challenge, right?
it's just like
Not lose brain
you
cells.
have to, like we said, it all starts with like changing yourself. You know what I mean? What you
Yeah.
intake. I think our subconscious mind is very sensitive to all these things. So like it'll be easy to like fall into like negative and like low vibrational cycles of like constantly watching the news, violence, terror. Like you get so stuck into it. They call it like, what is it, like COVID porn or like shit like that.
It's
like
real.
you get so into that shit that you don't
It's real.
even if you're like, it doesn't matter what side you're on. You know what I mean? Like anti this or pro this. Like it's like, bro, you don't think that if they wanted to censor like anti shit, they could do that in
They
a
could
second?
totally do it.
But they want the division. They want
Right.
both sides to be present so you can fight with each other.
It's
You get what I'm saying?
real. Like the whole COVID, like not to bring this to vaccine talk,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like they poured how many billions of dollars into the COVID vaccine to develop something that quickly, right?
It's advertising too.
It's advertising too, right? And like that's a whole other
Yeah,
topic.
yeah.
You know, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But you know, to your point about online rabbit holes, yo, I can swipe on Instagram and watch
Infinitely.
how many people get their heads
Legit
blown off,
infinitely.
right? Just
And-
evil ass shit.
I was thinking about
Like
I was
what?
thinking about Instagram as like a like let's use Instagram as a subject of study legit right now to like see how things work and like how I think this system has come about naturally. People say it's unnatural, but I think it's natural. I think that it's like Bruce Lee said, unnatural naturalness or natural unnaturalness. Like, okay, I run Instagram. Let's say I forget the dude's name who runs Instagram, but let's say it's me, okay? I run Instagram. What do I want? I want people using my app. That's what I want.
That's it. Period.
Okay, and like because that gives me money. Okay, so if I show people shit that like is not entertaining, like to keep them addicted to it, then they will not use my app. So let's make it as pleasing for them as possible by showing them stuff that they want to keep looking at.
100.
It's not a big fucking like mystery. Okay, so then okay, cool.
Throw in the negativity in the mix too, because
Yeah.
we know negativity thrives in the
Yeah,
media,
it's like a
right?
movie.
It's a movie.
So then like, okay, boom, we mix a little bit of this, a little bit of that. We see what they like to do on the outside. We like use our algorithm to see what they're posting to show them things they're interested in. It makes total sense. Like that doesn't seem like a cruel thing. Like they just want their app to work. It's like a business. I just want people to listen to the show. I just want people to come into my restaurant and eat the food. So I'm gonna make it taste good. Just like how a restaurant makes the shit taste good. I'm gonna make my Instagram app fun to use. What the fuck you think he's gonna make it not fun to use? So then like you make it fun to use, they use it more.
Yeah.
Okay, now I want money though. Like this is like I can't survive off of sweat alone. So now I need, money. So now I'm going to have these companies show their ads to this, ads to that. But before you know it, we're in a cycle where like now Instagram has a lot of power and also search engines and a lot of things that no doubt about controls your mental a little bit, because
100%.
it's like look at the hours you spend on Instagram, or like whenever there's a brief gap in what your activity, you'll come and check it and you'll search it
real quick.
So
look at 2016, right? Like during the elections and all that shit, or even the COVID stuff. They're putting these like messages on the bottom of the post because I think they realize like, yo, people actually listen and follow these posts and shit, right?
Yeah, and then you look at your phone, which is an amazing device available to change your life for the better and give you infinite knowledge, put you in contact with relatives in other countries, do this and do that. And you could do amazing things with it, but also it's used as, I'm not going to say a weapon for them, but I'm going to say like a vehicle or a vessel to sell you something, because that's like we kind of agreed upon, at least within the three of us, like it's what they want. They want to have their app be used, which is like a restaurant wants its food to be eaten. So at the end of the day, no way around it. They have a control at maybe you can say not of what I think, but I think they do, and a little bit of what you think. But at the minimal of what you see. And what you see becomes like what you think. So like they fucking have a way to have at least an influence. Not, of course, not full control. An influence of what you think, and it's mind food, and you need to be very cautious of that. Just like you wouldn't drink some Lysol because like, yo, that's fucking crazy.
For sure.
I'm not saying that. Of course, Instagram isn't Lysol that you're drinking, but you like it's influencing you and it's influencing the way you act. Like relationships have legit been broken because of differences of opinion in politics in this current era. Like
100%.
long-standing friendships,
100%.
families,
Straight up.
like, and that's not valid because, for example, someone came on the show a number of days ago or whatever, who had an opinion on a certain thing that, let's say, we didn't fully agree with, but then in everything else, we agreed with legit almost everything and had an amazing conversation, and I would legit hang out with that person all the time. But with the current climate, just that small disagreement might be like,
It's a whole identity.
fuck that person.
It's a
And
whole
it shouldn't,
identity.
and it shouldn't be like that. You know,
Yeah,
like I'm afraid to speak on certain topics on this because people will, like on this show I'm saying, because people will legit isolate us, and it should not be like that. Like, of course I'm going to continue avoiding certain things, but at the same time, that's a real like in our society, because you shouldn't have to change. You shouldn't be afraid to express an idea that is simply an idea. Like it's not a negative thing in and of itself. It's simply a viewpoint.
For sure.
Of course, like, yeah, like we shouldn't go out and say racist shit just because your viewpoint's racist. But I'm not talking about that.
Yeah,
like, I'm talking about like
yeah.
something totally different that you have to be careful what you say because everyone will isolate you. And like, but if you were to sit down with that person who's isolating you, you guys might be the best of friends, but you just disagree on this one thing. It's so fucked up. It's legit so fucked up.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. Like even growing up, I've had, I'm not a libertarian. I don't like libertarianism at all. I think it's a bullshit ideology. But one of my good friends was a libertarian, and we're cool. We're chilling. We smoke weed together, played Smash and all that shit,
Yeah.
But, to your point, we live in an age right now where the culture is just like kind of out of control in the sense of like, and I really think the social media aspect of it feeds on it because, it's so easy to drop a negative comment. You go on the page, you see mad people just shit talking. It's so easy to shit talk and just say negative shit and
have a crazy bias.
And they facilitate that, right? They make it easy for that. But, tying back to this idea of having conversation, like people need to be willing to have an open and honest conversation about these really tough and pressing topics in order to even make those like first initial steps to get somewhere better, and until we as a society and as individuals are willing to like be uncomfortable with our worldviews and be uncomfortable with other worldviews and like be willing to engage those worldviews and come to some sort of synthesis,
understanding and solution, like a fucking solution, not just like I hate you and you hate me and fuck you. Like,
it's a wrap.
I want to talk about the thing you said, libertarian, or I'm just gonna say like liberalism, versus the other side, which is republicanism, right? And it's so easy to have preconception on both of those things. So, for example, you just said like that you dislike libertarianism, right? And people might be like, he's a fucking
communist,
or he's like
Love Trump.
yeah. But if you take away that and like you break down the word and take away break down the word itself, like let's say I'm gonna break down both sides. So like I'm actually gonna break down more things. So like libertarianism, the root word, at least in English, I don't know nothing about Latin, which like I want to know about, but is like liberty. Almost pretty much everyone can agree that's a positive thing. You move on. Republicanism, which like liberals is like, yo, that's like the racist side that you don't want to be on, or that's the stupid American like mid-south side that like Midwest middle America you don't. but it's a republic. And like, for example, like Plato, the philosopher's republic, where they legit got together to find out what could be the best thing for all of our people for true justice and happiness. Republic, like republican, or like liberal, like liberty, like those are both in theory very good things. Like a republic of unity of human beings who are fucking down for each other, and also liberty. Like, who the fuck doesn't want liberty? Like, even a hamster wants liberty to be able to walk around and do whatever they want.
Get out of that wheel,
or
the
like,
hamster
or you
wheel.
think of something that has caused a lot of suffering in society, such as communism. And of course, there's a bunch of people who say the opposite. Actually, no, that's really good. But communism, the root word is community. Which, who the fuck? That's like community, liberty, republic. That's
who don't want these things, right?
Who doesn't want these things? A lot of things are good in theory, but in they get swayed with human error when they go for, or even like something that like it can pretty much like be like said to be like straight up just bad, which is like fascism. But like fasci is like supposed to just be like a united group of bundle of like, we are strong together. That's obviously sounds like a good thing. Like delete the word fascism and like, we are strong together. We are united. Like, I'm here with my brothers and sisters, and like, we are here for each other. And but then of course you use the word like fasci and turn it into like fascism, and it's like, whoa, what the fuck that just happened? Like, this is now some insane totalitarian shit where like I will have to like do thought control and write down things
Straight
that like
up.
I think so my neighbors can see them. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's real.
And I just want, like, if there's a takeaway from this conversation where we ended up saying mad crazy shit, is like like, I know people from all different walks of life are listening to this, from graffiti writers who are like real deal graffiti writers to like artists, musicians and skateboarders and stuff. But it's like, if there's one thing we can all agree with, is that like, no one wants to be hated. Right? Legit, nobody actually wants to be hated. And you would prefer to not hate other people, because if you hate other people, you have like some sort of hate in your heart. It doesn't make you feel good.
And no one wants to experience trauma too.
Yeah. We all want just understanding. And if we can understand that my enemy, in quotations, for those who are just only listening, wants pretty much the same thing as I do, then we can start to work together, as opposed to be like, fuck this liberal and fuck this Republican and fuck legit anyone who doesn't think what I think. That's not a good thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think number one, we need to realize that we live in a universe where there's so much catastrophes and calamities happening. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. The world could blow up in a second, right? The universe was created in a second. It could end in a second too, right? I think if we start from that point of departure, then it becomes easier to realize like, okay, there are a lot of things that we do have in common, that we all experience, that we all don't have control over. And let's build on those commonalities, right? But again, like, our society as a global society, and I don't know where as a human race that tipping point happened where we decided to go in this direction, but like, division is what this society runs on as an international, I'm talking on a global scale at this point, and I don't know, I feel like there's so much, again, it comes back to misinformation, like these terms that we're using, democracy and communism and republicanism, like they don't mean the same as what they did back then, so it just becomes this clusterfuck of confusion. And when people are confused, they get scared and they act irrationally and stupidly and do all kinds of dumb shit. And I don't know, hopefully we can like teach each other how not to be that way, but we also got to realize it's a marathon, and this shit's it took generations and thousands of years to get here. It's gonna take thousands of years to get out of this hole.
It legit took like mad long to convince people that blacks shouldn't be slaves.
Straight up, and we're
like, can you imagine that? Like,
still
to convince people that that's not the natural way.
Yeah, it's fucked.
That convincing. Like, that's crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
believe.
So to think that,
Jesus Christ.
I'm sure there's gonna be things that in the future, like when I'm dead and all of us are dead, but there's another generation, if the sun doesn't explode, that will be like, I can't believe they thought that was the right way.
Right?
How immoral could they be?
Right?
Yeah,
they're gonna think that.
They're gonna think that, because it's just probably natural progression that they'll end up thinking that and being like, damn, they didn't. How could they have thought that?
Right.
But we're living it right now.
And shit changes on. I know you had something to say. I just gotta say this one quick thing. Like, shit changes on a dime. Like, I was listening to some podcasts on fucking just notions of trauma and blah blah blah, but I don't know why I'm bringing this up, but they brought up this one point about Britney Spears has been in the news recently and shit, and apparently in the 90s, Britney Spears was controversial when she came out. She's young and showing mad body and all this shit. So
that Pepsi or Coke commercial was some like ill shit, bro.
Right?
When I saw that when I was young, I was like, damn, yo.
First pubic
That's
hair went
crazy.
But there was like apparently there was like the wife of a Maryland governor or something. She said this shit on the news and it was like, yo, if I saw Britney Spears in front of me, I'd shoot her dead right now. And I'm like thinking today,
Right now.
yo, today, if anyone said that kind of shit,
Yeah.
like, yeah, it'd be kind of a wrap for them. But I don't know. It's just fucked up and crazy to think like people go to that extreme with the quickness and aren't really willing to even have a conversation about like, yo, what does sexuality in the public eye mean? What does it mean to be a young person and learning how your body develops in the public eye mean? You know what I mean? And we're quick to go to these like, we're quick to stick to our guns and pull the trigger as opposed to put down the guns and have, a detente or a conversation, a diplomatic, something that's truly democratic, truly civil, right?
Like sharing ideas,
Sharing
which is
ideas.
mad important. And
It's fundamental.
I think just to tie it in with graph, I think a lot of graph writers, in a way, have an upper hand, and the reason being is because, well, one, graffiti is something that nowadays does not necessarily belong to the impoverished neighborhoods anymore. There's so many people who are well off who write graffiti and might even be really good graffiti writers.
Facts.
And them being well off might have nothing to do with it. One of the kings of our scene is known to be well off. And like it has nothing.
It's true.
And because of that, these people who would no longer mix, like, are mixing and becoming true brothers and sisters and going out and experiencing life, and they see the craziest parts of life because of their hobby. And then they also see like the non-crazy part of life. They know how to talk to people who are from a certain stage in life, let's say like an official, versus talking to someone else. They know how to switch their voice or use different slang.
Code switching.
Yeah, you know how to deal with different types of human beings immediately, and most importantly, like, you have an open mind to other things that other people don't. So then when it comes time for conversation, you straight up will be just naturally, because that's the way you've been living your life,
Facts.
more open-minded to different shit. I would hope.
Mhm.
God damn it. Like, I
Hopefully.
would hope, because then if, at
Hopefully.
that point, then like, is it just all about getting up? Like,
Yeah.
getting up is sick, but is it just all about that? We can use our talents even further.
Mhm, mhm.
And we can use like what we've been learning, doing all this shit even further, and just further ourselves completely from just like legit Babylon fake shit, like
Straight
Kali
up,
Yuga
yeah,
shit.
Babylon, fam.
You know what I mean?
Babylon will fall.
Yo, that's facts. But to your point, I mean, I think about this a lot. A lot of people talk about trust fund writers and shit. And definitely, I grew up in a neighborhood where there were no trust funds, was not in anyone's vocabulary and whatnot. But I will say, one thing that all graffiti writers should, I think, remember is graffiti was born out of spaces of abandonment, right? Graffiti writers go to abandoned spaces. Graffiti go to places where shit is fucked up and derelict, right? It arises from these environments and milieus of neglect. So I think a great thing is if someone who does have a trust fund gets into the culture and experiences that, to your point, hopefully it opens up their eyes to see, the world is bigger than my Fifth Avenue penthouse or my fucking, Hamptons beach getaway. There are people out here who are living all kinds of crazy experiences that I will never experience unless I'm placed in that position. So graffiti is like a subway in a lot of ways, the great equalizer. You know what I mean? And I love in Star Wars, I think it showed that. It showed the diversity, the immense diversity that graffiti had early on, right? NPC boys looked nothing like the dudes who were, getting up in fucking Bushwick at the time, right? Like, it's crazy.
And it takes both sides to make an amazing scene and product, I think, because you think about the 90s or even the eras before that, and you think about, for example, Style Wars.
Yeah.
Style Wars was filmed with a camera. It was made into a package, sold to the masses. You think about different photographers who made pivotal books. that took this culture that came from these impoverished neighborhoods of abandonment and provided it with a package to the broader masses that legit gave it to so many people that it made the scene grow astronomically. Whereas like left alone, they both need each other. They really do. And or even just like rap and hip hop, like some of these things that come from straight up very dangerous zones that were spread. They were spread, but it took money to spread such things.
It does.
And to package it in a way that like, so the people from money don't understand this, they wouldn't be able to do that on their own. But also the people from the impoverished neighborhoods who were making this crazy art and saying crazy shit wouldn't be able to. They wouldn't be able to like give it to the masses without the other side. Like we all straight up need each other. From like hip hop to fucking democracy. It's true.
No, it's trippy how like you could literally be a graffiti writer nowadays. In the morning, you go paint the Freedom Tunnel and you talk to a naked homeless dude, and later in the evening you got a gallery opening with like millionaires. You get what I'm saying?
Oh, crazy.
So like you literally like, I feel like that's like a well-rounded person, if that makes sense, through it, like with experience. You get what I'm saying? Like they're in a way naturally having an open mind to like every situation.
For sure. Like, yo, I've gone bombing with white boys who look paler than Casper the Ghost in some of the gulliest, cuttiest blocks, and they're moving with swag, and they're chilling, you know what I mean? And graffiti teaches you that, it teaches you how to be able to shapeshift in a way. And obviously, technology, globalization, the spread of this, it's a double-edged sword, because then you'll wind up with kids who go over shit and get duffed on the face, right? And on IG, whatever. But then you also get folks who actually really want to, live the craft and breathe the craft and do the craft to its like purest form. And that's something that you can't take away from anyone, no matter where their background is. As if they're true to the game, if it's in their heart, you can't take it away from them. So I'm not gonna knock anyone from wherever they're coming from. But you do got to pay your dues. You got to respect, whoever you're engaging in their neighborhood. Because at the end of the day, graffiti in a way can be kind of like colonization, right? You're going to these places where you're not from. You're leaving things that may or may not want to be left there, So it's a double-edged sword. I don't know.
Yo, I was going to say, immense thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, yeah, no
such
doubt.
an amazing time.
Very enjoyable conversation.
Thank you, y'all. And y'all are really doing some really amazing shit, and thank you for letting me talk my shit. And
100%. Anytime, man. Peace,
Peace, bro.
Word.